So it's great to be here on the latest podcast episode with my friend Malky Thomson, who is currently Rangers women's head coach. Hi there, Malky.
Hi, Donald. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak with you.
Oh, Malky, with a background like that, I had to get you on.
I built that wall, believe it or not.
I know.
That's it.
No, great to have you on, Malky. And I know if you've listened to a few of the podcasts, how we'll talk about. I know you're doing great work at the Rangers on the women's side of the Rangers just now, but I would love to chat to you about your, I suppose, development through the game, because you've been to some interesting places. You've worked with some great clubs as well, and at a lot of different levels. But First of all, is how did you get into football? Were you always a footballer as a kid? Who influenced you?
I think growing up, I grew up in a kind of small kind of village called Linwood, which is just outside Johnston, between Paisley and Johnston. And probably some of the kind of older guys that maybe listening to this will remember that it was kind of Linwood was kind of like the main factory there was Chrysler's.
That was the car
plant that was there, So it was a hive of industry there, lots of people really busy, and I was brought up in Hart Street, which was the kind of main street, which ran right down to the shops. The Ponderosa pub. Some people might remember the Ponderosa pub.
It's a great name, isn't it? Anyway,
you can imagine what happened in there. So I grew up there, and my dad was a factory worker. He was I think factory worker, maintenance engineer. I think he calls himself an engineer, So him and my mum Janice and my brother Martin, we were brought up in Linwood, and we had a big kind of oval outside of our house. And for those that don't know about what an oval is, a big kind of circular bit of grass that had trees on it, and so we used to just get there and kick the ball about there, and then it would, one pal would come, another pal would come, and before long there would be maybe 15, 20 guys just kicking the ball about, and we would get into wee teams and play football. And then we were always, there was always older ones playing there, and you were always trying to compete with older ones, and you go away to your back garden and break my dad's fence, by kicking the ball against it. And I turned my brother into a goalie. He was weirder than me at the time. So my brother Martin. So so we just there was always a ball there, But I suppose my uncle, Big Billy Thomson, who played with Dundee United and Rangers and coached at Rangers, with my grandfather, John, on my mother's side, he used to take us to Love Street and watch Billy playing. Right. So at that time there would be Abercrombie, Jackie Copeland, Mark Fulton, all these kind of Frank McDougall. I still keep in touch with Frank. Frank's the quality. You should get Frank on. Yeah. So going and watching these guys, and I think because Big Billy was in it, St Mirren, I used to get kind of like backstage passes, if you like, and I would go and they trained at Abbott Cinch, which is in Paisley, and I would toddle along there and watch Jim Clooney working, and Ricky McFarlane and these kind of guys, and watch them play, just full of characters. So I suppose I just fell into that kind of.
You hear a lot now. Well, you always hear the debate now about how in I suppose contemporary football, or and growing up in Scotland just now, we're missing that street football like you were speaking about. Going out and playing with your mates. Yeah. How important do you think it was that in our societies for the likes of you coming through and us all playing with our mates and people that are older than you? Do you think you can duplicate that?
I think it's hard, Donald. I really do. I think, for example, I would be there playing at maybe 8 years of age, right up to 10 o'clock at night, and it was pitch black, and street lights were on, and there was no risk assessment done, and you were playing with guys that would be going and having a cigarette at the side that were 19, 20, that were probably working in the factory with my dad. Yeah. But that kind of social interaction, listening to adult conversations, and you would maybe come into the house and say something, and your dad's, hey, don't be using that language, or don't be that. Where did you hear that from, and where did you So you were kind of brought up in the street, and you kind of quickly got to know, you know, for example, me as an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid would, you know, Hart Street, as I said, was the main street. If you're walking down to the shops or walking back up for the shops, very often you get sent to the chip shop, you know, especially on a Friday night, you know, to get the chip. And if you know, you quickly sussed out in the dim street lights about maybe a drunken guy walking towards you, you were streetwise enough to cross the road with your chips and stay out the way, you know.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing that doesn't happen, you know. You wouldn't get. I certainly never sent my kids into the chip shop to get the dinner, you know.
And you know, it's when we think about it now, like when you look back, and it's not that long ago, isn't it? It's you know, that's a generation really, and how much football and growing up and how your kids are with sport, how much it's changed, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's definitely. I think the opportunities now. I mean, the kids, certainly myself at Rangers. I mean, what a facilities. I mean, Donald, you'll know that. We've got everything there that you ever need. You just, you know, you're not actually having to make do or to find a solution. You know, there's an area that you can use for whatever activity it is. So I guess that growing up, guys in my generation, you know, you had to adapt and adjust, you know, and utilise where was a wall. You know, I remember Alec Ferguson saying, you know, when we got there at 13 years of age, I would, you know, you would get your train ticket sent down, you would pick it up at Queen Street Station, jump in the train, and Fergie would pick you up off the train, and you know, he'd be saying, right, have you got a ball? And if you got a wall, get a ball, go and practice it, left foot, right foot, you know, and you would go and adapt and adjust. Whereas if you go to Murray Park now, we've got kickboards, we've got the indoor hall, we've got absolutely everything there, you know, which is great. It's great because, you know, the kids are training in a fantastic facility and in a safe environment. I guess society has changed. You probably, is it more dangerous? Maybe no. I think maybe as a kid I was just more streetwise and growing up, you know, and could suss out situations early doors, you know.
And at what point, Malky, did you think, you know, when you were growing up there in Lindor, did you think, it's a footballer I'm wanting to be? When did that, or was it all? Were you always thinking football?
I never. I remember, you know, when I first went to Aberdeen, I played with Craig Ends, the school team. And Mr. Stirling he was a science teacher. And Mr. Stirling was the most frightening character you could ever imagine, because anybody that wasn't, you know, showed any form of indiscipline was sent to Stirling's office, you know, and you got grabbed by the scruff of the neck, and you know, if it was you're carrying on in the art teacher, well, he would tell you, you know, he ran the football team, and at that time, the school, Limwood High School, I was at. We had Quarrier Homes, remember the old Quarrier Homes, and there was some boys there, Vincent Brockle, I remember some of the names, Davy, somebody forget. And these guys were brought up in Care, but were put into our school, and we made great friendships with them. They never had a mum and dad, and you know, they never never went back home. Like I went back home to mum and dad, a loving environment and everything. You know, if you had your dinner was on the table and that. So it was. For me, it was a real, you know, growth. You know, I've always tried to be humble and respectful. And I think part of that psychology when I was younger, then, you know, Vincent would go back to the home and maybe come back into school with a black eye or be upset with something. Somebody bullied him or somebody, you know. So that environment for me really taught me about, you know, how lucky I was. You know, in fact, I think I've been lucky all my life, basically. You know, the jobs that I've had. But I think, growing up, Mr. Stirling was great. He made sure that we had a school team, and he made sure that everybody got a game. And to be fair, we had some real streetwise guys playing in that team. I think we won everything at school level, you know, because we had the mad mob for Quarrier Homes playing with us, you know. I think the fear of death. But he was inspirational back then, and then I went from playing, you know, school football, you know, Craig Ends school, to high school playing football, to then playing with Lindwood Rangers.
Right.
And again, that was a journey as well, where the, you know, as I said, down at the Lindwood Rangers social club, we would all meet. It would all be the parents that would meet with the cars. And Bob Mills, who's dead now, he ran the Lindwood Rangers team. So Bob was a big factory worker, same as my dad. Bob was about 6'5", huge man, big presence, you know. And again, the discipline there, we were sponsored by the Rangers Social Club. So we would turn up on a Saturday morning and we would take off to wherever we were going. And I remember the buses, or the Rangers buses, would turn up at the Social Club, and they'd been having a few beers before they would jump on the bus. And the ones that didn't quite make the bus, for either they were too drunk or there wasn't enough room, would come and watch us play. So we always had a wee crowd on a Saturday. It was
the overflow.
Oh, the overflow. It was crazy. And we had guys shouting at the side and singing songs, and it was a great experience, for me. And through that experience, but the scouts would come and they would watch. At that time, the more successful your boys club team was, the bigger entourage of scouts that would come, And the Aberdeen scout was watching me one day, and he approached Big Bob. Big Bob approached my dad, and he said he'd like me to go to Helenvale in Glasgow for a training session. And I went to Helenvale for the training session, and guys like Paul Wright was there, Joe Miller was there, and I was just right at the boys club, and I can remember thinking I was a good player at the boys club level, but all of a sudden I went to Helenvale and I thought, God damn shit, I couldn't get a touch at the ball. And but you imagine me, Joe Miller, and Joe Miller could keep the ball off you in a telephone box. He was phenomenal. So I would go, and I went there, I think it was once a month, but it was Alec Ferguson and Archie Knox that turned up at the training sessions. And it was like, the manager and the assistant manager on a Monday night, and they're at Helenvale and they're set up, and it was great because they would turn up, they would do the training session, they would be talking to the mums and dads, and then you would get a pair of boots, and you would get, I think it was a £5 at the time. You got a £5, a wee £5 expenses for your mum and dad, and that kind of intrigued me when I saw the likes of wee Joe playing, and Paul Wright and Stevie Gray and these guys playing. I thought, I want to be like that. Yeah, and it was always that, because I think, going back to the Oval story, you were always playing with older ones, and I and keep up with them, So that kind of spurred me on, and I thought, I want to get there. And then eventually, obviously, the Monday nights training once a month, and then it was the school holidays, and then you got the invite to go up to Aberdeen, and for somebody like me who'd never really been outside Linwood, and my dad had worked in the factory, my mum was a school librarian. And at that time, nobody really went to fans. Nobody flew to holidays. You went to Sillith, or you went to even a Drossen or something like that. You went to holidays, a caravan. So to get to Aberdeen, to travel up to Aberdeen, and to go to Great Western Road with the big sparkly buildings, and you were put into a guest house, and it was just unbelievable.
Just an adventure,
And I remember, the minibus would pick us up. And it was, Belle was the cook at Aberdeen, and it was her, I'm not sure whether it was her boyfriend or her husband, we weren't sure, that picked us up in the minibus. He would pick us up in the minibus, and we had to be out there already, and then down to the stadium, down to Pittodrie, and then you were met by Alec McLeish and Billy Stark and John McMaster. And when I think back now to it, sorry, that's all right. Jose Mourinho, he keeps calling me.
Pest.
He's a pest, honestly. He's suffering. He's got low confidence, that man.
Starting to doubt himself.
He's doubting himself. I thought, come on, Jose. When you walked into Pittodrie and you were met by all those characters, when I think back now, for a young kid, we're always conscious of the welfare of kids now, and we better not put them in this environment or that environment. When I think back to myself, you were just flung into these.
Yeah.
I mean, Alec McLeish at the time, 6'2", and you know what big Alex, huge. Doug Rugby, Gordon Strachan in those dressing rooms. I mean, we're talking guys that are leaders in football now, and you were, I think there was, there would only maybe about 8 or 9 years that were invited up there, and because we'd signed S forms. And then we had duties to do, so we had to get in there and learn the duties of, how to set a dressing room out for old Teddy Scott. Teddy Scott was another influence on my life, So learn how to put the kit out, learn how to look after the pros, learn how to handle getting a bit of stick.
Yeah.
you know, in that dressing room and watch these professionals, how they done it, you know, Peter Weirs and guys like that. It was.
And at that point, Malky, that Aberdeen dressing room and that environment would have been at the very top of high performance, isn't it? That's
terrible. Just I mean, they were playing European games and stuff like that, and if you were lucky to go up there of a school holiday and there was a Wednesday night European game on, you know, you were brought in and sitting in the stand and listening, and in fact, Sir Alex would take you in. He would take you in the dressing room and listen to the team talk. So we would all be sitting in the corner, and he would be, you know, he wouldn't be holding back with what he was saying. Aye, to Willie Miller and to you know, these. I mean, we're talking, you know, and these professionals like Willie and Alec and these guys were totally respectful of what he was saying. And the way he was saying it, you know, and I remember Fergie after it one time, one of the stories I'll remember. I remember I still use it with the kids when I'm coaching. After one of these games, and we'd heard them in the dressing room being quite explicit and quite matter of fact to the point with what his message was. And he came in and he slammed the door behind him, and we were in our changing room getting ready, and he said one of yous might make it in my team, one of yous might make it, but every one of yous will make it in life by the time I'm finished with. And he walked out and he slammed the door. And I remember looking around at each other and going, you know, to Scott Harvey's and guys at my age, I'm going, what did that mean? But, you know, and it was like, wow, you know, it was. And then, you know, later on that day, you know, like we would get and train with old Teddy in the mornings, because the first team, you know, Archie and Alec would be training Alec Ferguson would be training the first team, and we would do a morning session with Teddy, and then in the afternoon we would be back out in the afternoon with either Archie or Alec Ferguson or both of them, you know. And I remember him saying to me, the day that I stop shouting at you sons, the day I don't want you, deal with it. And I think there's merit in it, you know. I think there's merit in it, you know.
How influential was that time at Aberdeen to kind of shaping how you are as a football man and a person then, Malky, when you look back on it?
I think it gave me valuable lessons, you know, like preparation. You know, we were big on, you know, the way that the football's going now, planning and preparation, and we talk about methodology and, you know, and everything geared towards the Saturday game. And when I think back to, you know, like Sir Alex Ferguson would shout Thomson or shout Harvey, and you'd to run to, right, I want a pitch 60 by 40, then I want an area, I want a penalty box, but I want a double penalty box, 36 by 44. So I remember all those measurements were in my head. And then I remember pacing a pitch out, and Archie coming down and saying, what's that? That's the pitch, Archie. It's 60 by 40. 60 by 40? Well, I'll show you 60 by 40. Walk with me. So, of course, I'm not as big and as strong as Archie knocks at the time. And I remember having to get his stride pattern to go, right, that's his stride, that's his 10 yards, which was my 12.
12,
So you had to quickly calculate that. And he wanted everything plumb, everything straight, the same colour of cones to depict a certain area. The nets to be tight, the nets had to be tight, the goals had to be pegged in. It was, and that probably started off my kind of thing in coaching, about getting out there early to get the session laid out. Because certainly we went out there and settled that up. Archie and Sir Alex would come out and they would check it, and then the first team would arrive, and then it would start, that session would start, bang, and away it would go, and then they would leave, you know, and then we had to obviously pick it up, you know. And very often what had happened in those days, the reserves would train next to the first team. So every so often, if somebody would get injured or if he wanted an extra player, he would just shout over your name, and you went over. And I remember going over there, and, you know, Gordon Strachan and John McMaster, and if you didn't control the ball right or you didn't pass it to them, you go, it was frightening, absolutely frightening. I remember being there at 16 years of age, and I honestly didn't. I remember talking to Sir Alex and saying, I think I'm rubbish. I think I'm hopeless. I don't feel as if I kick the ball. And then he just laughed because he knew the process that every player, because he'd seen it for years and years, and you'll get there, you'll catch it, you know. It's
interesting, Malky, when I'm listening to you speaking as well about, you know, how Sir Alex was there and Archie, and what you took from him of setting the sessions up, and where you came from in Linwood as well, and how similar it is, that whole industrial approach to be good at what you do. You know, whatever it is, isn't it? We're going to be good at what we do, whether it's making a car or being down the mine or building a ship or putting on a football session. We're going to do it right, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's all these words. I mean, you know how football's changed, but it's not really changed. You know, attention to detail. We just use different words nowadays. You know, the attention to detail. It's always been there, and I think you're right. That industrial background, and I think where you're brought up and how you're brought up. You know, certainly I was brought up. I was brought up to make my own decisions and be free. But there was a line. There was a line there. I knew that there was a line there with my mother and father. You know, I had a paper round when I was 13 years of age, because you know at that time money, you know, didn't earn big money. There wasn't the, you know, Christmas, every Christmas was wanted a St Mirren strip and a ball, and you know, so you got the new football, the St Mirren strip or something, and that was big, that was massive. Whereas nowadays, you know yourself, Donald, you probably got your own kids, certainly I do with mine. It's we'll buy you a car, or we'll buy you, you know. So I think you're right. I think that industrial side of things, certainly for Sir Alex Ferguson. You know, that attention to detail, that having to work hard, having to earn something. But I think it's the same, even when I'm coaching now, it's great. You still get that good feeling if you go and put a lot of effort and time into something, and then you see the fruits of your labour. You see that, you see the, like just now in my current role at Rangers, you know, working with the women's, coming from the men's side of things into the women's side of things, and being fresh and going in there. I can definitely see the girls and the team getting better. I can feel them getting better. I can see it, you know, and I think they know that as well, you know. So that pride that comes out of, you know, like maybe making a car or, you know, simple things, just simple. I love doing the garden, you know, as I spoke earlier. I love the garden, so I love standing back and the stripes are in the grass and everything's nice, and you wash the car, and you know.
Do you think, Malky, you know, and you know, you're working there at Rangers at the, you know, the first team and the women's side now, and you're saying about developing players. Do you think, as you're speaking to me and you're describing how Sir Alex smiled at you when you were, you know, doubting yourself and saying, I'm rubbish, do you think remembering that progress and how it felt when you were developing, do you think that helps you relate to players coming when they're doing that themselves? Can you see that happening?
Yeah, definitely. I think that honesty's, you've got to be really honest. I signed full time at 16 and then doing it the game with a bad back at 24. But I was never going to be Alex McLeish. I was never going to be good enough. But I realised that, you know, I knew that I wasn't quick enough. I probably wasn't physical enough, but you know, big enough probably to play there. But the one thing that I did know, that I was wanted there, and that I contributed. And I think you've got to understand when you're coaching, you know, males or females, you know, boys or girls, whatever age it is, that you've got to quickly understand that it's somebody's wee boy or somebody's wee girl that you're coaching. You've got to be honest with them and tell them. I certainly was honest with my own boy who was at Birmingham at the time. He doesn't play anymore. Whereas my younger son who plays at tennis, he's got something, and it's hard to describe what that something is. You know, it's like when you see the players like Peter Weers, I spoke about Alex McLeish, there was something there, you know, there was something there that made them different, and it's hard to put into words, just how they carried themselves, you know, and obviously how they kicked the ball, how they moved, how they read situations, you know. But I think honesty, you've got to be really honest with when you're coaching, and it's great now in the environment we're in at Rangers, where they have regular parents' nights and regular updates with players, and they're very honest and upfront with the parents and with the players as well. And I think that is definitely is good, because it's not every wee boy or wee girl that's going to make it at football. But every wee boy and every wee girl can make it in life. Just going back, and that goes back into my head with Alex Ferguson. So there's a lot of things that's drummed into me, and standards that's drummed into me, that fit Rangers Football Club right now, about that historical background that the club's got. The John Greggs, and when we're going to talk about Rangers, I'm John Gregg and John Brown, and that I remember being in listening to they two talking. You know, that just it's. You've definitely got to have that awareness that it's not everybody that's going to make it, but they'll make it in life. And I think you've got to support them with that, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, isn't it? And sometimes you don't realise it at the time, Isn't it?
No.
When if someone says to you, "Oh, it's life skills you're learning, son," yeah.
Saying that, great. I've been cleaning that car of yours, Sir Alex, for 4 hours now, and you're still not happy with it.
You think I remember, Malky, I remember one of the sessions we did a couple of seasons ago. It must have been with the 13s or something, and how articulate they were about the game. Remember when we were?
Brilliant.
Do you think that's a change?
That's it. That I think even with my kids as well. I mean, my kids are up now at the house now, right? But even with them growing up, I was never as eloquent or smart. But I suppose I don't know. I don't think I was. But you're right. That session there, they guys drove that session and led it. But I think probably the internet and social media and that. I think maybe kids are reading more. I think they're probably reading constantly more. So like where if we didn't have phones in those days, it was like, oh, I'm going to use the big phone. In fact, my auntie said that to me the other day. Listen, use the big phone, don't you? The big phone. The one that you only use for Sky TV now. Is it for so I think kids are reading more now, so they're reading their phones all the time. They use computers, so they're reading and they're things spell check. So you're probably, in your head, you're that because I can't spell it. I'm hopeless at spelling, and hopeless at computers. Probably only because I wasn't brought up in that generation, So,
but you. If you're saying, although you said that perhaps your computer's not your first language, you've travelled a lot with football, Natalie, hasn't it? You've been in India, you were over in, was it in Dubai as well, were you?
Yeah, I've had some great, I've been very lucky, Donald. There's been lots of opportunities given my way, none more so than Big Alec McLeish that gave me some great coaching jobs. And through meeting Alec McLeish, this is this football journey, and the football people are fantastic people. I regularly lift the phone to different ones. You do the same. Alec McLeish, Roy Aiken, and when Alec gave me the job at Birmingham, doing the reserve team there, I met Roy Aiken, and Roy, what a coach. Roy, very similar to Archie Knox in his mannerisms and his. Everything's like a bravado, but good knowledge of football, but could really deliver it, really hook you into the session, really motivate you into the session. And it's all that kind of learning that I've just soaked off of people. I've just soaked, because a lot of the things that I do are things that I've witnessed and watched, and it's that, I've got the evidence of it's proof of concept. I've seen it happening and it works, But yeah, I got the opportunity through working at Birmingham City, through Roy. Dave O'Leary had contacted Roy to say there was a job going out in Al Ahly club out in Dubai, and then Roy had, I think, I had back in, Big Roy was leaving. Oh God, Roy's leaving, right? Okay, fine. And Alex said to me, "He'll come back for you, son. He'll come back for you." And I said, "No, Dubai, you kidding me? Malky who? I drive the minibus and put the cons down. I've always had that kind of working class, put myself down thing, And not sure his fate, Big Roy, phone call, said, "Listen, I spoke with David. There's a job here for you. You fit it. We want you to come. Name your terms." And it was an experience that the humbleness that I'd, kicking the ball in the oval, the awareness of what was run about you and getting out to Dubai and having to get into that culture. And learning that culture, it was great. I met some real. I met Al Nabuda out there, who's a big business guy out there. I met the Sheikh, Hamdan, met all these guys, and powerful. When we talk about presence and power, these guys are phenomenal. Absolutely. We've not paid the electricity bill. I was looking for the coins in the meter. Sorry.
Brilliant.
Oh God. So I was saying, going out to Dubai and I had David O'Leary and Roy Aiken done the first team, and I took the reserve team that would go along with the first team. So the day after the first team played, I would take the remaining players that hadn't played with the better youth players, and then introduce them into that way of playing. But it was unbelievable that you would get to half time, and then the prayers would come up, and the boys would just go pray.
Brilliant.
But I met a lovely guy out there, ended up being the captain of the reserve team and then got into the first team, which was great for me, you know, and great for big Joseph, you know. He was just he wanted to know about Western culture. He wanted to know everything. He was really switched on, but and really focused in his football and a lovely background, a lovely family he came from, you know. So that experience, it was easy for me to coach over there because the language barrier wasn't a problem, because not that I spoke Arabic, but I had a team manager with me. But the guys, the Emiratis could speak English. They were you know, it was great, you know.
How important, Malky, is certainly, you know, all the time I've known you, one of the things that you see about your coaching, how you are, is your enthusiasm and passion for it. How important do you think that enthusiasm is if someone's going to be a coach or a player? Is that really important to be successful?
No, I don't think it's important that you have. I think everybody's different. I think what you'll find is that you know, I love sharing practices.
Yeah.
I love when we work together. I love my character bouncing off your character. You know, like just. I think when you coach, you've just got to be you.
Yeah.
I think you've got to obviously know the game and study the game and learn. And the best way for me to learn is to watch people, like I've said, like, you know, even like yourself, when we're in the classroom with the kids and you're breaking things down and relating it back to football and then relating it back to life.
Yeah.
That for me, that's why I was so engrossed with what you were doing and wanted to be part of that, you know, that process there, because it was easy for me to then go and do a coaching session after we had worked together.
Yeah.
Where we'd spoke about you know, be encouraged. I think one of the words was courage. What is courage, and how do we get courage, and how do we, you know what I mean? And then relating that back into how am I going to pass that ball? How am I going to am I going to take a chance and play that difficult pass, or am I going to pass it with my left foot? Or am I going to, so it goes back to that courage, and you know. So I think every coach should put their own, you know, their own stamp. I'm working with Kevin Murphy right now, so Kevin, and he won't mind me saying it, Kevin's one of these kind of computer guys.
He's great.
Everything's got to be, you know,
meticulous.
Meticulous, unbelievable. Got to be, you know, it's. Whereas I'm in the moment, I can adapt and adjust because I know that at top level football things change. You know, that the mood of the thing can change very, very quickly when you've got high end professional players playing against each other. Like I remember at Birmingham, Barry Ferguson, Lee Boyer. These guys would be fighting every day. It would, you know, and Big Roy's charismatic approach could diffuse something, could wind it up, could diffuse it, could still get the session done. And I think that learning, and I'm very fortunate to have been about these guys, because I don't think the guys now that go on the courses, they don't get that cold face in the moment thing, you know.
I think that's a great point, Mark, because certainly all my experience in football and different sports, and just in life, isn't it? You've got the theory and then you've got actually what happens, and you have to be able to roll with it.
You've got to, you've got to. I think as well, Donald, I think you're it's like when I remember I used to say, right, I'll be the scribe. You know? And the guys, obviously I knew the guys we were coaching, they're going, you can't spell. But I think it's good to, I think as a coach, it's good to, you know, put yourself down, show your cards, put your cards on the table and say, listen, I'm not very good at this and I'm not very good at that, but I don't mind. And I think when you do that, it allows players to then say, God, I trust you now. I trust you. You know, because most of the players don't want to, even in the female game, they don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to be. Oh, I've made a mistake, and I look stupid in front of my peers. You know, and that's the exact opposite of what you want. You want them to make mistakes and learn and get better.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, Mark. Yes, because it's that. You know, as you said there, being willing to show a bit of vulnerability, that people know that it's because it is taking a risk, isn't it? It is taking a risk, answering a question or getting on the ball and making a pass. You have to take a risk to get better.
You got to. I mean, the you know, we go on about you know, that risk and reward thing that you know, it's all the football jargony quote type thing, you know, but it's true, it's right. You know, if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always have, you know. So you got to put yourself out there in coaching and as a player, you got to go and make mistakes and go and do it, you know. And I've just been fortunate, Donald. I really have. I mean, Donald Park's another guy who springs to my mind when we talk about characters. You know, Donald was great because when I took the Hibs job and Donald was there, Donald was like, well, I was Donald's wingman. You know, I would go and, right, how do we do this? How do we do that? And he was great because he allowed me to. I remember when I went there at first, he just integrated me into it slowly but surely, and then just let me go.
Yeah.
You know, and it was
Parky's great.
It was fantastic, and I don't think. Do you know what? I don't even think he knew what he'd done. I think it was just him being a good person. I just think it was him being Donald, because Donald would invite you to his house and share his dinner with you. You know, and Donald, if you needed 20 quid, he gave you 20 quid and didn't want it back. You know, that type of guy. You know, in fact, if he's listening now,
that'll be it.
He's loaded.
So now, Malky, I know you're working in the women's game. How have you found working in the women's game compared? Because you went from at the boys' academy, the academy there, the 18s, to the women's first team. What's similar? What's different about it?
Yeah. Well, I think I'd done a when we went in. Obviously, Craig had phoned me. I came back from India, so Craig Mulholland phoned me and said, "Look, I heard you're back from India. Would you come back in? Would you?" Of course. And Rangers have been fantastic with me and my development as well, because they let me go up to Inverness to go. You know, I was in the Rangers before I went to Inverness to go full time, and then Dundee United, Chester City, and all that. You know, so Rangers, the door's always been open for myself at Rangers. So, I mean, I can't thank them enough, you know, for the opportunity that they've gave me, you know. But having worked with the males all the time, and I remember Craig saying to me, "Listen, we would like you. There's a new project. The directors are going to invest some money into the women's game, and we think your character would suit it. We think you would be able to, you know, you would be able to get in there and turn your hand to it." So Amy MacDonald, and Amy's a kind of unsung hero, if you like, just now. She's been involved in football all her days as well, and you know, she's come through some real hard times in her life as well, and to get to where she's got to, and she's in charge of the programme now, and she's actually my wingman. I've got two wingmen, her and Kevin, just now, which is good for me because I'm getting older and going to be a granddad. There you go.
Oh, brilliant.
So there you go, a bit of news for you. So when Craig and Ross Wilson had spoke to me, the new football director, Ross, had come in as well, and I said, "Well, look, I've never coached females before, but it's just football. I take it it's just football, and just I'm quite happy to do it. I'm definitely up for it, and would like the challenge." So we spoke with Amy, and I think Amy had said that she thought that I would be a good fit going in there. So I went in, and I think there are differences. You know, I done a wee report on you know, gender coaching. And how to go about it. And it was funny because I remember going in one of the first sessions, and Emma Brownlee, you know, I shouted "man on," and I went, "Oh," and I could feel my face going red and going, "There's no men, you clown, what you saying?" And Emma said, "Listen, just park it, just we want you to be you. Just shout at us and motivate us, and you know," and it made me relax. And then I think after that kind of initial first session there, it was like I can. You know, I'm enjoying this. I'm you know, and of course the level of investment that's went into it, and you know, the one club attitude that we've got at Rangers has been fantastic. Listen, it's been made easy for me because of the staff that's round about me, you know, and I think that's important. You know, that your sphere of influence, whoever's round about you, you know, needs to be good, and they need to be diverse as well. So just like we're saying that, you know, I've got a different personality for Emma Trainer, the sports scientist, for Nick Hardy, for Amy MacDonald, you know, for Faye Bennett, who's a young girl that's came in, who's enthusiastic and highly intelligent. So these guys are helping me no end. You know, at 52 years of age, I find my job easy. And the club, again, you know, we've got the manager. I mean, met the manager just before we'd had the lockdown. And spoke to him, and I was saying, "Listen, we get round about the penalty box, and just can't, you know, teams are sitting in against us. We're struggling to break them down, and you know, Steven Gerrard again. That just at your top of that industrial background, that what he's about, and the presence that he's got. You know, where he's played, what he's done. You know, the aura that's about the guy is phenomenal. And he said to me, I'll do a wee bit with the women's team, and we'll get one of these Zoom things, because at that time we couldn't all meet up. You know, we'll get one of these Zooms. He says, contact my analysis. There's a guy, there's his number. Gives a wee phone once you're ready. He says, and we'll get the girls on. And I said, right, well, next week or a week after. He says, no, we'll do it tonight. We'll get it done tonight. I says, Gaffer, it's Friday night. They're playing on Saturday. I went, don't worry about that. That's all right. He says, I'm in the house.
Yeah.
And he came on. One of the kids, you know, he came on. The guy came on, and you know, we do a lot of Zooms with the girls, you know, and of course the girls sometimes put their cameras on, sometimes they don't, you know. Well, every girl had their camera on, Donald.
Yeah.
Golden brown, you know, candles and that were in the background. And, you know, the makeup was on, the hair was all done, and that was great. It was great. It was great for me the next day in coaching, you know, getting that togetherness, that camaraderie, you know. But the gaffer came on. And he spoke about, you know, running about the penalty box and things that they do and stuff. And then he just started speaking about his life. He was on for, I think it was like an hour and 20 minutes. No?
Oh yeah, okay.
So for me, that just elevates me with the girls, and it makes my job so much easier, you know. And for him to do that and spend that time, given he was playing in the given we're going to win the league. No.
I'm wondering. I know, because I read, you know, the report you sent me over, the project you did about the, you know, the women's game and the similarities and difference. And one of the things you said I thought was was about how coachable the girls are within it, how open they are to improve, and how keen they are to be coachable and improve.
Humble, they're very humble. I think because if you think about it, and it's not a slant on anything, but. The young kids that come into Rangers now, into Celtic, into Motherwell, into Aberdeen, they're in there for a young age. They're in there for 8, 9 and 10, so they get familiar with the place, and they get, you know, they get used to the facility, and they get you know, they get that kind of, you know, it's blasé, I suppose. Certain ways. Not all of them. I mean, not all of them, and you know, I'm not for in any way, you know, saying that they all do that, but I think the difference is that the girls, it's totally new for them. This is their first season professional, so they've never had the facility there to utilise, you know. So I think that, and it's one of the things that we're talking about culture with them, is that we're keeping this, drumming this into them. Listen, don't get blasé with it, because after 2 or 3 years, when you're used to it, you know, keep your feet in the ground, keep appreciating things. Because certainly when I drive through those gates, you know, the big blue gates, and I think of the guys, Billy Kirkwood, that's been in there working, you know, John Gregg, John Brown, all these guys, and even, you know, like Walter Smith, you know, Walter Smith still coming in and out from time to time. You've got to really appreciate the fact that you're fortunate. Yeah, you're fortunate, but I mean, you've worked to get there. You deserve to be there. Like all the players, they definitely deserve to be there because they're good enough. The coaching staff's good enough, you know. Right for our bosses, Craig Holland, all the way down, you know, right through the whole thing. But you've still got to appreciate the fact that it's not everybody that gets this opportunity in life, you know.
Yeah, I think that's so true, Marky. So when you're looking at the women's game in particular just now, how do you see it developing in terms of how it's played and, you know, how you coach it? Where do you see it going?
I think the girls, as you said, they're coachable, so I would say that the girls they're listening more. They're absolutely tuned into every word you say, so they take things literally. So what I've learned with coaching the girls is that, you know, if you're asking them to do a specific function or something like that, they'll do it to the letter. They won't go and be creative.
Yeah.
So it's trying to, like, whereas the boys, if you say to the boys, pass the ball from A to B, they'll maybe go, no, I'm going to pass it to E or there, and then they'll pass it there, you know, because they're that way. They're a bit maverick, whereas the girls are not really maverick. The girls are kind of quite in the moment, right? That's what you want. So we're trying to get that kind of balance in them. That you be creative, make decisions in the moment, and you know that if something doesn't quite work, then fix it. Just fix it. That's all you've got to do.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Malky, isn't it? Because it's, as with all football, it's having the discipline to do the right things as part of the team, but the real magic is the individual decision making on the park, isn't it? That's the unlocking the door, isn't it?
That's right, and those players, you know, those players, and I think that's one of the good things just now at the club at Rangers is that the creativity that players are allowed to express themselves. They're allowed to make mistakes, you know. So you know yourself that the guys that are growing up, the teenage years, that they're not going to do everything right all the time. Certainly, I never did everything right. You know, I could take a red face with some of the things I've done. You know. But it's all right to make mistakes, and that's the thing. And it goes back to, you know, we're in that world now. We're talking about mental health and stuff like that. I think there's a real, coaches have got a real responsibility to ensure that you create an environment where somebody can just, you know, warts and all, they can just be who they are, and it's all right. You know, it's okay. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay, you know, be as good as you think you are. It's okay to feel pressure. You know, and it's okay to win. It's okay to be the top as well. You know, don't you? You know yourself. You'll get some. I mean, some of the women's players that we've got are real top end, but they need to go right top end and don't care about what's below them. You know, whereas they'll pull back a wee bit just to, because the girls are more caring with each other. You know, they're more. If somebody's upset or somebody's going through a hard time, they will rally around. They're a real good group, you know. Whereas boys, as you know, boys are like, I'll be your pal, but hey, listen, you're not going to shut off my back, you know. So
it's been great speaking to you, Malky, and just hearing about your own journey and playing and coaching and going into, you know, the men's and the women's game. And I just wanted to finish with, if there was anyone listening who was, you know, looking to make their career in coaching, you know, based on your journey, what would be some kind of tips you would give them? Because I think, and you probably noticed it as well, I think people are starting to get into the coaching game far earlier now than ever before. So what kind of tips would you give someone who wants to be a coach?
I think, you know, working with people, for me, it's working with people. And I've kind of fell in love with football and I've been sacked 2 or 3 times in the game as well. So it's not always been easy for me, you know, in that respect. So, and every time you get the sack, you know, you need to, you know, you take the huff with yourself in the world and you get into a wee shell. And I've took various jobs. I've been a field sales, sales and field sales and Coca-Cola Schweppes. I've worked offshore. I drove a taxi for a while as well. But I think people skills is interaction with people and understand people and listen to people. You know, that's the big bit. But if to get really good at coaching, I think everybody focuses on that. Or what drills do I do? What do I? You know, it's not always just about the football. It's about the message in life. It's about the environment, and then you know. I keep saying we can put on a training session and we can flip it into an intensive session or an extensive session, whatever you want. You can do it by tweaking it and playing about with it. But I think the big bit is captivating your audience, like the kids, or you know, whether it's boys or girls, whatever it is. They've got to trust you, and you've got to captivate them, and they've got to know that they're getting a certain level of success out of it, but you're still challenging them. And I think that's hard. And I think the best way to do it, if anybody's want to get into coaching, is go and watch people, go and watch other coaches, go and watch their style, go and I quite enjoy, you know, Kevin Murphy's great for me because today in the lead up to our Celtic game, he says he spoke too much, you were in there too much, you were talking too much, blah blah blah. And it's great because I like that matter of fact, here you go, have it on the because it'll make me a better person, make me a better coach. And it's his opinion. I might know sometimes I don't agree with it, I don't do one, but however, you know, we've got an open we're really open at it, but we're happy to accept constructive criticism. And I think if any coaches are out there, and certainly I was lucky that I had guys like Donald Park, and as I said, I've ranked them all off all the coaches I've worked with, you know, Billy Kirkwoods and all these guys that's been run about me, it's helped me. But get watching people, watch their antics, watch how they do things, watch things watch practices that go really well, and I've always got a kind of couple of go-to practices that I've got that I can flip into anything. I can flip it into a defensive practice or an attacking practice, but it's my go-to type thing. I can say, right, I can put this session on if I want the mood of the group to be up, or
Oh yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is, because I rabble on and rabble on, I guess it's go and meet people, and don't be scared to lift the phone. Don't be scared to lift the phone and say, phone up and say, listen, can I come and watch you? Can I watch you for a few sessions? Or because it's the only way you get better.
Yeah. And certainly, thanks for that, Malky. And certainly, one of the things I've taken from listening to you here and knowing you is, and I think you've said it in a lot of different ways, is encouraging people to be themselves, whether as a player or as a coach.
Definitely.
It's not, yeah.
Be who you are. I mean, if people can't accept you for who you are, then they're not really your pal anyway.
No.
So, I think you've got to learn to work with people, and it's like God, I'm married 30 odd years now. It's not easy. You've got to learn to get on with people, and so it's the same in your job. There'll be some people in your job that you don't get on with, but you've got to find a way of working together. And often than not, what I've found is that they actually become the guys that actually really help you the most. It's amazing. It's human nature. But as you know, Don, I'm into that psychology. But I love people. I love their opinions, and I love getting to know them, because yourself. It's behind you peel back the layers. I remember that. Remember we were talking about peeling back layers and stuff like that. And those things. You peel back the layers, and you certainly find the true person.
And I think that's one of the great moments we have in coaching, isn't it? When someone trusts you enough to see, they show you the real person, isn't it? That's
right. That's right. And it was actually, I remember one of the sessions, and it was Amy MacDonald said to me, because Amy's obviously been a player, and coached and took the team, and she says to me, they all wear masks just now. You'll probably get another month before they take their masks off. And I'm saying, all right, so of course maybe me. I said, right, I'm telling you right now, she's telling me you're all wearing masks. I'm telling you, take the mask off, because you're not going to get, you'll get every bit if you take warts and all. And it's good. But I think it's good to have those conversations. I think it's vitally important. I know for a fact, Donald, that the work that you did in that classroom went onto the pitch. Yeah. And that's a whole bit. And not just went onto the pitch, went into their lives, taking us back into the lessons that you learn in life,
Yeah, so true. And as you said earlier, we were just so lucky to be involved in the game, isn't it? And
it's a special. When I've got neighbours running about me that the big fancy cars and all that, and they're like, I'd love to have your job. I'd love to have your job. I'd love to have the first page of the bank book, but never mind that. No, but it's true. We're fortunate that you get to do something that you love.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks for taking the time to speak to you tonight, Mark, because I know you've got a game tomorrow, and
a wee friendly against Celtic tomorrow.
Brilliant. All the best.
Donald, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.